Hiya, so a few folk asked me how I had done this nail, so stay tuned and I will take you through a step by step. So the first thing I'm going to do is do one layer of my Sparkle to Perfection Cool Mint gel polish. Obviously, if you were doing this on a client, you would have prepped the nail and done base coat to start with. But since it's just for a wee video, I'll just pop it straight onto the tip. Now, I've watched this video back and for some reason I faff about quite a lot with this coat. It actually went on perfectly in just a few strokes and then I seem to decide to just keep playing with it. Don't do that. Don't do what I'm doing. When it looks good, leave it alone, because the more you play with it, the more you'll have to play with it, because you move everything about. So I've finally decided to put it in the lamp. It goes in for a 30-second cure. Everything in Sparkles to Perfection is 30 seconds. So this is the green full colour foil. I love the full colour foils from Sparkles. I think I have every colour. And these are the new Chameleon flakes. I think these are the purple ones, but they do have quite a greeny tone when they shift. So I'm going to be using them as well for my base layer. And the thing with this nail is it's all about the layers. So I've got that out the lamp. It's got the tacky inhibition layer. Once I've got the foil in my hand, just pressing it randomly over the nail. You're not looking for full coverage, you're just wanting kind of splodges. Doesn't matter if they're big or small, side by side. Try not to have too big gaps between them, just because that can draw the eye rather than it just being kind of a nice background. And then I'm going in with what is essentially an old eyeshadow brush, and just taking up some of the Chameleon flakes. Now, when I go in the first time, I actually take out some pretty big flakes. And although that's great for doing like full coverage on them, it's actually not quite what I was looking for on this nail. So you'll see here I change and I just use the little flakes that are in the lid, and that's got the more kind of speckled effect that I was wanting on that nail. So just dabbing them on, they kind of melt into the nail, into the inhibition layer. They are a fantastic product. I adore these so much, and they look so good with these full colour foils. Can you tell I really like glittery stuff? So dotting that all about, I think I might have got slightly carried away, but the good thing with this style of nail is it doesn't matter. So just giving it a quick brush down to get all the loose flakes off that. And I mean, how gorgeous is that even now? I think I did actually take a photo of that after the first time I did it. I put on matte top coat and just took photos of it because I was terrified I was going to screw everything up at the next stage. So next stage is to grab your super matte top coat and pop a layer of that on to seal in the kind of base layer that you've done. Just float it kind of over the top because you want to try and keep as much of the glitter off your brush as you can. But this one in particular I find gives really, really nice non-streaky coverage. So pop that in for 30 seconds. But the most important thing before you put your brush away is make sure you give it a wipe, because no matter how careful you are, you will probably have got some glitter flakes in there. So yeah, I think I was trying to show you there were actually quite a few flakes that came off there. So pop that away. Now the Sparkles matte top coat is actually it's not a non-wipe one. So when that comes back out the light, I'm going to need to give it a wipe over with some isopropyl alcohol. The first time I did this, I totally forgot, or the first time I used this top coat rather, I totally forgot about this and I was going nuts. I was curing it, trying it, couldn't work it out, and then remembered that actually I had to give it a wee wipe over. So you could also use kind of your prep and wipe or your cleansing gel to do that, whatever you normally wipe the nail down with. So this is where the fun stuff happens. So this is my ink brush. It's just a cheap set of 5 brushes, I think, from Amazon. They're artist brushes rather than nail brushes. But alcohol inks, acetone, and IPA all ruin your brushes. So I would never use a good brush when I'm doing my ink work. So going to be using my acetone. I think I may need to replace that plastic bottle. I think you're not meant to keep acetone in a plastic bottle, but it's lasted me a year. So the first ink I'm going to be doing is my green ink. As you can see, it had a lovely spill all over my desk the last time I used it. But first step is just kind of dotting it on. Oh, that's me just getting the acetone ready, pumped out, so that I don't have to worry about that. So back to the ink, dotting on randomly. Now you will see that I kind of end up almost totally covering the nail with the green at this stage, but don't be tempted to just kind of spread it on or paint it on like you would a gel polish, because just the few little gaps that you do get with doing the dots, it just stops it being quite so flat. And I'm just going in with my acetone, thinning out the colour in a few of the areas, kind of just sort of spreading the ink about into bits that I maybe want it in, taking it off bits that I don't want to have that, popping my lid tightly on because I learnt my lesson last week. Now this teal is one of my favourite colours of ink. It is so gorgeous. So just dot this on. Now this one I do far fewer splodges. I hope splodge is a UK wide or international word, especially basically putting little bits all over the place, but leaving big gaps, and then using my acetone and kind of a light-handed brush, just kind of dapping all over the ink, spreading out, moving it where I want it to go. With inks, don't be too set in your mind about where you want the product to end up, because it never ends up where you actually think it's going to go. And if you try, you will go nuts with just frustration. I think that's why a lot of people say they're not good at inks, and it's because they've had a set idea. Oh, that was a big splodge. Be careful once you've been using the acetone, because that will happen. So never mind though, just go in with your acetone, move the colour about, blend it out, lift some of it off with the tip of your brush. I mean, like I said, you can't go wrong with inks. So yeah, do give them a try and just see what you do. Now this is me attempting to do a tiny dot. Oh, and I actually managed it that time. And again, just spreading it out because that bit was looking a little bit too green. So this just makes it that sort of more sort of jadey colour, which I love. Screwing the top tight back on that ink. And now this white ink, I've not used it terribly often, but it is so useful. Give it a good shake before you start, because it does drop its pigments a little bit down to the bottom of the bottle. But you're going to pop this on kind of, again, randomly over the nail. You will end up almost covering the nail with this, but just let it flow where it's going to flow. You can see it's moving colours around, taking the teal off some bits. I'm just kind of trying to move it back over a little bit, and it's given it kind of a sort of a milky effect, which on this nail just really added quite a lot of depth. It's almost like you're kind of looking through an opal kind of thing. So keep on dabbing. I did find that the white, once it dries, it's much more subtle than it looks wet. So I would go in heavier with the white than you necessarily think you need. I didn't like how much white I used on that. I think I should have used a bit more white. But what I'm showing you there is just making sure that round your edges you haven't got any colour pooling, because it can sometimes just flow down to the edges of the nail. And obviously if you're with a client, you wouldn't want it running into the sidewall. Okay, so we're going to seal those inks in with a layer of the thin rubber base. So just plonking that on, float it over the top. Make sure your inks are dry when you're doing this stage. You'll notice that as they dry, they go a kind of matte shade themselves. So once they've gone matte, pop a layer of your base coat on and pop that in the lamp for 30 seconds. Sorry, I appear to have just been wittering away there, but never mind. I'm sure you know what I was meaning. So now I'm moving on to the final stages. I promise you this is the final stage, but it's the final stage in 3 stages. So this is my white gel polish from Sparkles to Perfection. I'll pop my discount code in the comments if you do want to get any of these products. It's such a lovely company to deal with. The people behind it are absolutely fab and such a good laugh. But yeah, so I'm going to do the kind of veining for the kind of marbly effect. So just taking some of the gel paint onto my brush and popping on the palette, 'cause it just makes it easier to get an even coating over your liner brush. So just go into your white, drag your brush through, make sure it's kind of coated all over the brush and that you don't have any lumpy bits at the end. And then we're going to be kind of initially going for a sort of a Y shape, but do kind of wiggly lines. Don't try and have straight ones because that's just not going to look right. More on for the next one. Sorry, I had dropped my brush at that point. So go in for the next one and we just again spread that down. Sorry if you can hear a noise in the background. It is my coffee machine. So push that down. Again, vary the pressure on your brush. You can have thick, thin, and then I'm just putting in a few little kind of accent lines. Just adds interest throughout the rest of the nail. Don't worry too much about your placement of this layer, because like I said, we are going to do another 2 layers of the white over the top. Just kind of go with where you think it looks quite nice. So now I am going to take my isopropyl alcohol. I have changed from my acetone. Back in with my brush, and I'm just dabbing over the top of this with the alcohol. Now, what I'm aiming to do in this stage is to really disperse that white so it's almost just like a hint. You know, it's a kind of vague shadow of white against the darker nail. Some bits, when I was doing this, it does actually take almost all of the gel paint away, which is absolutely fine. Again, we're adding depth and layers to the nail with these stages. So just go in, if you think you need a bit more alcohol, pop a wee bit more in your brush and keep on dabbing. I actually discovered doing this sort of by accident. I was trying not to do it this way, and all the gel paint, I was a bit heavy-handed with my alcohol. That sounds quite like me, actually. Heavy-handed with my alcohol and ended up with it looking like it was there. And actually it worked out really well. So it's now been done on purpose. So I'm just showing you that I'm swapping over to a kind of flat brush now. So that's it out of the lamp. So I had another 30-second cure. I'm going to go over roughly the same areas with the white this time. Again, it doesn't need to be exact. You're not going for perfection here. Nothing in nature is perfect. So again, just going down, varying the width of my line with pressure and just doing my wee extra lines as well. Got a wee extra line at the bottom, I think. that wee one at the side. There we go, and down at that bottom corner. So this time we're going to go in with a little bit less of the alcohol. It started with the wrong brush. I like to use a flat brush for this stage because it just gives you a wee bit more control of getting to the edges of the line. So as you can see, I'm just kind of pressing up against it and pulling back a little bit so it sort of feathers out that line quite gently. Now the other way that you can do this stage, if you would prefer, is to first of all put a layer of the base coat down, and before you cure it, go in with your gel paint, and it will bloom out a wee bit and give you a very similar effect, but much faster. I had forgotten that was what I had done previously and went for my old faithful method of flat brush, pulling backwards and forwards, and just making that line, again, slightly diffused, not quite so harsh, but you don't want it to be as diffused as it was in layer number 1. So again, going up to the top one, add a bit of a blob at the top, so I've just thinned that out a wee bit there, pulling my line down, having a wee check, am I happy with it? Are there any bits that I think maybe need a bit of extra? Pop that in the lamp, again, 30 seconds, and we're second to last stage now. Comes back out the lamp, and we're going to go back in with a fine brush and kind of quite a light hand on the brush, and we're going to just go through, and again, same places on the line. I don't know what's going on that's made me be so long between getting it in the lamp and getting it out. I must have been doing something else. But hey, you just get to listen to me talk a bit longer. So you'll see I've changed to a very fine brush now, and just taking light amount of the gel paint, and again over the same areas. So this is almost like a highlight. So you've got your marble, but you're just emphasising where it goes with this final layer of the gel paint. So going through it, things like that, and just working my way, and then cure it once you are happy with it. Oh, so I'm sitting here, I am absolutely sweltering. Up here, I know it's been much hotter down south, but up here we've been kind of 23, 24 degrees, and I'm a typical Scot. I do not do well in temperatures. So yeah, I've got myself one of those wee neck fans, but obviously with talking over this video, I cannot use that because that's all you'd hear. You'd think I was hoovering. So that's it out of the lamp, and now I'm just going to go in with my steel non-wipe top coat, again from Sparkle to Perfection, just going over that, and you'll see how instantly the entire look changes, and it just goes absolutely gorgeous and shiny. So you could stop after this stage, but why do that when you can do something else? One of my absolute favourite products from Sparkles is the silver gel paint. It is like liquid chrome. I absolutely adore it. It's just so fabulous. I recommend it to anybody that asks about silver paints. You can use it as a full nail, you can use it as a highlight, and just look how gorgeous that is. I cannot get enough of this product. I had a panic because it was out of stock and I was getting very low, but fortunately it's back now and I have stocked up. So again, putting a little bit on the palette. I'm not going to need a lot, because what I'm going to do with it is I'm just going to go around the edge. Like you can see on the palette, it's edged with the kind of gold leaf. I'm going to go around and just kind of wibbly wobbly line just round the edge of that nail. It just gives it a bit of a frame, bit of interest. Oh, sorry, it's gone a bit out of focus there. But I think nails like this, they do look really, really nice with that extra touch of the gel paint You could use really any of the kind of metallic colours, but I would use a metallic one. And don't be worried about being too neat. You know, it's just it's a kind of raggedy edge around it. Turn the nail as you need to. And then I also go in and just add some kind of thickness and interest to some bits. So kind of just making kind of extra loops with the gel, as you will see. So yeah, so this voiceover I'm just doing just now, taking a break. I have been doing my other business all day so far. I'm also a bookkeeper, run my own bookkeeping business. So I have been busy doing that and thought I would take some time out and do something a little more exciting. And I thought, YouTube, that sounds that little bit better to me. So what you can see I'm doing here is, like I said, I'm just adding that extra interest, going over it, making wibbly wobbly lines. It doesn't necessarily look like you're doing much when you're actually doing it, but when you see the finished nail, it makes it so much better. And you can do as much or as little of this as you really want. You know, there's no right or wrong. Just keep going, and remember, you have put a top coat on. So if you decide you don't like anything you've done, you can just wipe it straight back off. So yeah, I'm just going to pop this away because I, again, don't want to cure it or to spill it by mistake. I cured my rose gold one, which I was devastated to discover. So just going to wipe that off, clean up my palette, just again with the isopropyl alcohol. And that is the beautiful nail. Now again, you could leave it as it is, but I just do an extra layer of the steel top coat just to fully seal in that silver gel paint. You don't need to do this by any means. The gel paint's tack free, so you can just leave it, but I like to just give it that extra layer. And that, I absolutely promise you, is the last step. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I'd love to hear your comments, and I will speak to you all again soon.